I'm Roopam Jha, Senior Mentor at Prepp IAS. Today is 7th of August, and I welcome you all on today's series of What to Read in the Hindu newspaper. While going through the article, we will not only see it through the lens of prelims and mains relevance, but also try interlinking it with other GS papers as well. So let's get started. The very first article that is worth our attention in today's Hindu newspaper is Trump raises US tariffs on Indian exports to 50%. Now, this particular topic, the key theme for this would be India-US trade frictions and the strategic diplomacy that we are trying to adopt in this critical time. For prelims perspective, the areas that we have to keep in mind is terms like tariff, what is tariff, WTO rules, most favored nation status, then India-US trade compositions, who is on the gaining side and who is on the losing side, what is the role of NSA and key bilateral visits that has taken so far, what are the deals that we have signed with regard to it. For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen from the lens of what are the challenges that India and USA is facing in terms of trade relations right now. Then the second angle that can be seen from this particular article is strategic autonomy in foreign policy and rising US pressure, how we are navigating through it. Then we can even interlink it with other multilateral forums, that is BRICS and SCO's diplomacy that we are doing. How are we balancing West and East? Then in today's newspaper, there is a classic example of when NSA Ajit Doval is visiting Russia, how we are trying to multilaterally align in this tough time, this global volatile economy that is going on right now. So all these angles are to be seen while reading and going through this particular article. So the depth and detail can be read from there, but the key highlights I have highlighted over here, and the other angles that can be seen from this particular article is discussed so far by me. Moving on, the next important article that needs to be seen from this particular angle is petrol lobbies behind E20 fuel fear campaign. Now, this particular paper is relevant for GS paper 3, environment and energy. Right? Then from prelims angle, what are the things that we have to keep in mind while going through this particular article? We need to know what is E20 fuel. Then its meaning. What are our targets regarding same? What is the implementation status as of now? Then what is India Biofuel Energy Program? Then FASTag initiatives for biofuel compliances as well, if taken so far. For mains relevance, the same article is to be seen from the lens of India's energy diversification targets under national bioenergy missions. Then what are the challenges? Challenges in implementation of E20 fuel, technical challenge, lobbying that is being done, consumer behavior, all these angles are to be seen. We can even link it with ethanol blending roadmap that we have kept for ourselves. What are carbon neutrality targets and when is the timeline then that we have to achieve? So this particular article majorly talks about how private lobbies stall green transition at times. So this is to be seen from the angle of governance and environmental ethics as well. Moving on, the next important article that shall not go out of our watch is on editorials page. So the recent tragic instance that has happened in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand, that is a cause of concern for us. So this is relevant for GS paper 1, geography, and GS paper 3, disaster management. Right. Then the theme here is, what is the key theme that we can see here? The rising silent disasters. And is it only the silent disaster, or we are responsible for it? Is there any infrastructure neglect that we are doing right now? So for prelims perspective, what are the angles that can be seen while going through this particular article is river morphology. The three themes: young river, old river, mature river, these are to be seen, the traits and the characteristics of it. Then siltation impact on dams and barrages, that often happens. Then flood risk mapping, which should be done when it comes to Himalayan river per se. For mains angle, the same article can be seen from the angle of urban flooding, sustainable development, and neglected hazards that are rising in nowadays. Right? Then we can even bring it with example and comparison with Himalayan river versus Western Ghats. Then what are the governance failure in pre-disaster monitoring? This particular article is majorly talking about cloudburst. We need to know what cloudburst is, how IMD defines it, what are the issues and why it has happened. I have already highlighted that. So IMD has given a lot of data that talks about the favorable reasons that led to this particular disaster, and what could be the way forward to mitigate these sort of disasters in the coming time. So moving on, the next important article that is worth our attention is Decoding China, the lessons for vulnerable India. Now, this particular article is to be seen from the angle of IR. This particular, it falls under GS paper 2, IR, and also GS paper 3, internal security. Right. So the key theme here is neighborhood relations in specific to India and China. Prelims perspective, the data or the facts that we should brush up our knowledge on: China's recent geopolitical moves. For example, in case of Taiwan, South China Sea, its recent initiative in the form of BRI, debt trap diplomacy, how it is happening, the strategic key doctrines it signs with other neighboring nations around us, the infrastructure projects that it is building with other neighboring countries of India. Afterwards, they have even given a lesson of how to tackle China, the persistent issues that China is facing on home ground, and how India can leverage it. But the difficult situation rising right now is the US attitude when it comes to putting a tariff of rising 50% almost. So how China leverages its soft power and tech dominance, India can take its lessons from. Then India's broader vulnerabilities and counter strategies at this particular time, they can be linked for mains perspective altogether, right? So the dominance of China when it comes to critical minerals as well, uh, the strength and weakness of China, the strength and weakness of India, and then we would be weighing what lessons we can get from China to navigate our geopolitical tensions that is arising nowadays, uh, to uh, make India self-reliant and getting the least impact on now global geopolitics tensions that is going on. So this is how this particular article is to be seen. Moving on, the next important article that is to be seen from today's Hindu newspaper is about what is the potential of biochar. Now, this is relevant for paper 3 that talks about environment and agriculture. India is an agricultural nation. So we tend to produce a lot of agricultural waste. So how that can be used and reused to fit it into a circular economy that will have an impact on a waste regeneration or reuse, and at the same time we could even fulfill our environmental targets as well. So this particular article talks about biochar. It's what biochar is. So afterwards, what are the composition of biochar, how this benefits, right? What is pyrolysis process altogether? So these are the important points that we have to keep in mind from the angle of prelims. Then what are carbon sequestration techniques that we have, right? For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen. Biochar's role in climate smart agriculture, carbon market, how they are useful in soil rejuvenation, then India's policy on sustainable agriculture, can it be used for environmental mitigation process or not, business model could be developed or not, what are the issues we are facing while implementing it. So these all are things are being mentioned in this particular article, and I have highlighted it. So this is to be seen from this particular angle. So the last closing remark that I can give about this particular article is biochar can be used as a tool to fight both emissions and soil degradation. Right? Moving on, the next important article that is worth our attention in today's Hindu newspaper is about Doval's visit to Moscow as Trump imposes additional tariffs on India. So on the same day, Trump announced increased tariff, while we are trying to balance that by going and by forging a better relations with Russia. So this is relevant for GS paper 2, IR, and GS paper 3, economy. Right. So the theme here that we can link over here and think of is India-US trade frictions and the focus on strategic autonomy altogether. So this can be seen from the angle of different trade pacts, what we are doing with Russia. For example, we are importing oils, then S-400 missiles, that is defense pacts. And afterwards, at the time when Ukraine and Russia crisis is going on, so what could be the solutions for the same? The sanctions that has been imposed on us, how we would be navigating it. So these are the angles that we have to keep in mind while going through this particular article per se. The next important article that is to be seen is Parliament passes legislation to modernize India's maritime law. So this is relevant for GS paper 2 and 3, right? So this is relevant from the angle of legal modernization and maritime economy, that is to be seen. For prelims perspective, the pointers that we have to keep in mind is what is UN clause, how they govern sea, then what are the maritime zones, exclusive economic zones, then knowing about the institution that governs shipping industry and seas, such as UN clause and WMO. Then afterwards, we even are trying to develop several projects in the form of Sagarmala. So we can see that for mains perspective, we can see why was the need for maritime laws in terms of security, trade, and deep sea mining. Then modernizing colonial laws is one such angle that can be seen. What were the issues with the previous Maritime Merchant Shipping Act bill and why we have introduced it? Then we can even link it with India's blue economy vision that we want to achieve. Then provisions with regard to the carriage bill of goods by sea bill 2025. So these are the things that we have to go through while going through this particular article. The last important article for the day is fishing gear, a major source of microplastic contamination along Indian coast. So relevant for GS paper 3, environment. Key theme that can be seen from this particular article is ocean pollution and maritime governance. For prelims, the pointers that we have to keep in mind is what is microplastic. the exact definition of it. For example, the size of microplastic ranges from 1 micrometer to 5 millimeter. What is then sources of microplastic, the impact it can have on sea creatures. Then what is maritime ecosystem, then endangered species there. Then if we have uh, 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 made a maritime litter policy or not. For Main's perspective, the areas that we have to keep in mind: what is coastal pollution, what is sustainable fishing, blue economy and its target when it comes to India's vision, then India's obligation under SDG 14, life below water. We can even interlink it with climate resilient livelihood of coastal communities as well. So, so these are the observations that can be seen from this particular article. Not only what the information is given in this article is to be read, but also brainstorm from other angles as well. So this is from my end for today's edition of Hindu newspaper. See you next time. Goodbye and take care.